Hi everyone! Today we're going to be talking about the Stanford Prison Experiment, which took place in 1971 and was conducted by Philip Zimbardo at Stanford University. The big question that Zimbardo was trying to answer was what effect the prison environment has on the behavior of both the guards and the prisoners. He wanted to know how the authority position the guards are put in affects how they treat the prisoners and how they handle aggression or infighting, and how the prisoners' submissive position affects how they behave and their levels of aggression, depression, etc. Zimbardo's hypothesis was that the cause of the abusive behaviors in a prison environment was the personality traits of the guards and the prisoners and the inherent behaviors they're prone to, not the environment that they're put in. To the shock of everyone involved, this simply was not the case. Let's take a closer look at the details and results of the experiment. Of the 75 applicants, there were 24 college-age men chosen to participate in the experiment, 9 guards and 3 alternate guards, and 9 prisoners and 3 alternate prisoners. The mock prison was made in the basement of the Stanford Psychology building and was made to look as real as possible. There were no windows or clocks available to the prisoners, and there were 3 main cells holding 3 prisoners each, and 1 solitary confinement cell, which was actually a supply closet and was only big enough for a prisoner to stand, not to sit or lie down. To make the experiment as real as possible, the prisoners were arrested by Palo Alto Police Department on what was seemingly a random day, taken from their home just like in a real arrest. They were read their Miranda rights, handcuffed, and put into actual police cars. They were driven to the police department, put in ill-fitting prison uniforms, and got their fingerprints taken before being put in holding cells. They were then blindfolded and taken to the mock prison so that they wouldn't actually know where they were. As I said, Zimbardo wanted to make the experience as real as possible. The guards, and Zimbardo himself, acting as the prison warden, used elevated methods of tearing down the prisoner's sense of dignity and self-worth, methods a little more extreme than what is used in an actual prison, such as making them wear makeshift bald caps to take away their sense of identity and individuality, making them wear prison dresses, shown to the right, to take away their sense of manhood and masculinity, and making them wear a heavy chain on their ankle as a constant reminder that they were in a prison, not at home. They were also assigned identification numbers, and not only were the guards required to refer to them exclusively by those numbers, but so were the other prisoners. The guards were equipped with prison guard uniforms, mirror sunglasses to keep their identity and emotional responses more hidden, and were also given actual batons borrowed from the Palo Alto Police Department to be used to threaten the prisoners. It's important to note that while the guards were told that they could do whatever they felt necessary to control the prisoners' behavior, they were not supposed to use physical violence against them. Let's move on to the results of the experiment. The first day of the experiment went by very uneventfully. The guards and prisoners both were awkward in their new roles and not much happened. Everyone was just trying to get used to their new positions. By day 2, tensions ran high as prisoners began getting restless, and so they decided they would strike against the guards. They pushed their beds against their cell doors to block the guards and took the ID numbers off their uniforms and removed their bald caps. They also taunted and cursed at the guards. The guards responded by using the fire extinguisher they were required to have on site and pushing the prisoners further back into the cells and forced them to strip out of their uniforms. They then divided the 3 cells into the good cells and the bad cells. The prisoners that were least involved in the uprising were put into the good cell and given the opportunity to wash up, brush their teeth, and got their beds and uniforms back. They also got to eat special food in the presence of the prisoners who had their eating privileges taken away. By this point, less than 36 hours in, one of the prisoners was showing signs of depression and uncontrollable rage and was removed from the study after deliberation by Zimbardo and the guards. He was the first but not the only one to be removed early. After half a day being separated into the good and bad cells, the guards decided to mess with the prisoners' sense of trust. They switched the prisoners from the good cell with the ones from a bad cell. This caused the prisoners to think the ones getting put in the good cell had snitched on the others, causing them to lose their privilege. It raised tensions among the inmates and caused them to be weary of each other. Tensions escalated over the next 4 days in the mock prison. Guards forced prisoners to do repetitive and/or degrading actions, such as push-ups or jumping jacks for hours on end, cleaning toilets with their bare hands, and saying their ID numbers over and over. On day 3, the prison held a visitors' day, which was also strictly structured and regulated. Families had to sign in and wait in a waiting room, only had 10 minutes to see their son and were supervised by a guard for the entire visit. Many parents complained about the treatment their son was receiving, but the guards used some manipulative tactics to get their parents to back down. "You don't think your son can handle this?" the guard would say. "Oh, of course he can. He's strong. He's a leader," the parents replied, and went on their merry way. Tensions continued to escalate after the visit day, until Zimbardo's girlfriend, Christina Maslach, visited the prison to see how the experiment was going, and upon seeing the awful treatment the prisoners were subjected to, she demanded that Zimbardo stop the study or she would break up with him. The sense of urgency coming from someone he loved dearly made Zimbardo see that he was in the wrong and that he had gotten too caught up in his role as warden. He stopped the experiment that day and let everyone involved go home. The conclusions I draw from this experiment are simply that the roles you are placed in or expected to fit into can really change how you act, your feelings and emotions regarding different events, and the ways you interact with others. This can be seen on a much simpler level among younger children with one older child. Leave a 10-year-old in charge of, say, a group of 6-year-olds for even just a short amount of time, and quickly the 10-year-old will become demanding, controlling, and very concerned with everything the little ones are doing. The little ones will likely rebel against this new authority figure, seeing as they are not used to being bossed around by someone who is so close to them in age. This may not happen every time with every 10-year-old child, but in many cases it would. I have personally seen this in effect, and it is very interesting to see how quickly the older child takes on their role of boss. Another thing I gather from this is that the typical prison environment, one that we still see even today, is not very conducive to being correctional of the behaviors that the prisoners were imprisoned for. They're left with very little mental stimulation, kept in close-quartered environments with others, and given multiple authority figures over them. It's no wonder they still, when in prison, seek out adrenaline-pumping behaviors like fighting, doing drugs, or committing other dangerous acts. They're left with little else to do. Also, the role of the guards is not conducive to a correctional environment. They're given quite a lot of power over other people who are quite powerless to fight back. This powerlessness could also raise tension and aggression among inmates. The entire U.S. prison system is quite ineffective, and the recidivism rate proves that. Zimbardo's study is important to understand the impact of authority and submissive roles in many situations. The only flaw that I'd like to see changed in a future study would be to have an all-women's mock prison and see if the rate of aggression and rebellion is the same among women, or if the quick escalation could have been in part due to the fact that men are, on average, more prone to aggressive behaviors. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about this fascinating experiment as much as I did when I was researching it. It's really crazy to see how quickly good-natured people will turn on one another just because of the roles they are put into. Speaking of research, here's my list of sources I used for this video. The official Stanford Prison Experiment website, ran by Zimbardo himself, was especially helpful in getting more in-depth with the details of the experiment and helping me understand the mentality of those involved. So I recommend checking that one out if you want to learn more. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.